Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. We had another one of them flip moments. 5 seconds before we went live, so it's just one of them things. What can you do? But good evening. It is the 15th of November 2012, and before we get cracking into the bits and pieces we're going to be talking about, our guest on tonight, by the way, as advertised, is Dr. Joseph Cipollone, and we're going to be talking about end time prophecies. And we have a couple of things that we want to talk to you about as well. But before we do that, I'd like to wish Steve a happy birthday.
No, it's not my birthday.
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, no, Tuesdays. Yeah. Well, we're not broadcasting on Tuesday, are we?
No. Well, we could have done a special. But
there you go. Happy birthday. Steve, just give Steve a little birthday present.
I'm afraid to open this. Oh, what is it?
Go on, you can have a quick look. Go on.
Sound effects.
He's sound effects. He's opening up the box.
Okay. I have no idea what that is.
Just be careful when you pull it out.
That's what she said last night.
Said the actress to the bishop. Okay. Right, so it's you can tell them what it is.
Oh, look at that. It's a mug.
It's a mug.
Look at that. Thanks very much. I'm embarrassed now. It's a Back to the Future. It's a mug with the Back to the Future card, which I love and adore on it. Steve's mug.
Yeah, specifically designed by moi.
Yeah,
I have to say.
Play. Thanks very much.
That's
Jesus.
no problem.
Yeah, and I have to apologise because I did forget to play the Happy Birthday song a couple of weeks back, 2 weeks ago. I absolutely forgot to do it. And I said it at the end of the show, but I forgot to mention. So, belated Happy Birthday.
Well, I have to say, Steve felt very guilty that he didn't say Happy Birthday. So on the Monday, I got a knock on the door, and Steve's there with his family with a cake and a little sparkler in it saying singing Happy Birthday. So fair play to you for that.
We sung Happy Birthday on the doorstep.
Yeah.
Total prats we felt like.
Well done. No, that was much appreciated. Well done. Okay. Thanks a lot for that. Right, okay, let's move on.
Onwards and upwards.
Okay, now we're going to do Alan and Steve's week at the end of the show, but there's a couple of things that obviously we want to talk about before we get Dr. Joseph in. One of the things, I'm sure you've all seen it, is the Paris issue with what happened over there in Paris on Friday night. An awful lot of stuff has gone around the Facebook and YouTube, and people are saying false flag. Now, false flag could mean two things: one, that it's all an enactment, but also a false flag could be that it did actually happen, like 9/11. It did actually happen, but it happened because they wanted it to happen, because the Hegelian dialectic problem, reaction, solution, and they're trying to get us used to martial law and curfews and closing the borders and all this kind of stuff. It's some people's opinion. I don't know really. I mean, I'm on the fence at the moment. We just want to see what develops over the next few weeks and see what's said. But it's if people have been actually killed, then obviously our sympathies for the people, family and friends.
I heard though they found a passport.
Yeah, well there you go.
I mean, sound familiar?
Yeah, exactly. They found a passport. In 9/11 they found a passport as well, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah, okay. Now, it just so happens that if people remember, Netanyahu said about France that the recognition of a Palestinian state by France would be a grave mistake. And that was Netanyahu who said that. He said that last year. Why did he say that, and why did he kind of make it in such a way that was like a veiled threat? I don't know, but it's a mystery there. It's a mystery, but we'll see what happens and develops over the next few weeks. But just bear in mind that these people they are psychopaths, and they will do anything to get what they want and do what they want. So don't just think that is these rogue people who happen to carry the passports at the same time. That's quite convenient. But we'll see what develops over the next few weeks. The other thing is that on the website, you're probably seeing, people who have seen it, you're probably seeing that we put up a thing called the 300k plan. If you want to have a look at that, pop over to the OAM website. And basically, it's just something that myself and Steve have talked about, and it's just got to do with putting it out to the universe of the things that we'd like to do as part of, educating people and helping people and giving a kind of a turnkey solution to people that come in where they can be helped legally by either the Hub, the National Land League, or any other groups that want to use a room. And also, training could be held in the room or the premises we're looking at. Or alternative medicine, alternative therapies could be held there as well. It could be used for a plethora of things. And if it's a house, then you could actually grow organic vegetables and use that as well. So, it's basically a turnkey solution for everybody coming in. And that's kind of one of the things that myself and Steve have talked about for a long time, but we didn't kind of put pen to paper. So we decided to kind of do it up, put it on the site, and just put it out there for the universe and see what happens. If nothing comes of it, well then fair enough. But if something comes of it, then, happy days, and we'll put that to good use. If people want to know why we called it a 300k plan, send us in an email and we'll tell you why. We're not going into it now. Steve.
Yes, I think we just throw out the old communication channels there.
Oh, sorry, Steve. Communication channels.
Yes, the communication channels this evening for the good folks there are as follows.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Of course, everybody knows the details anyway. You have all the details there, oimradio.com for the website. We're also streaming on peoplesinternetradio.com as well as unitedwestrike.com as well. So we've got three streams, and we're monitoring two chat rooms. That is the OIM radio chat room. If you log on to the site, you can see the link there on the left hand side. You can log in there. We're also monitoring People's Internet Radio chat room as well for questions. I did have an issue with the PIR chat room on this machine last week, which we have it resolved this week, so I can get to the questions. So that's all good. We also have the TuneIn Radio Link application as well for your iPhone and your smartphone. You can get that as well through the relevant Google Store, Play Store, wherever you need to go for that one. And the only reason I play the jingle every week is I love to hear Steph's voice. That's it, Mary, as we used to call her. The beautiful dulcet tones of Steph there. Anyway, so they're all the ways you can communicate with us this evening. Again, hi to everyone on the chat rooms, and you're all very welcome.
Brilliant. And you're going to tell us about the Irish Independent, I believe?
Yeah.
An article they have?
Yes, they do indeed. The IrishIndependent.ie, they have an article there saying, an inquiry into multi-million losses at Anglo-Irish Bank can't probe write-off sales, says government. An investigation into multi-million euro losses during the wind-down of the former Anglo-Irish Bank is unable to probe any of the relevant write-off transactions, the government said twice. Why did I say it twice? I don't know. It was so good they said it
no
twice.
Good. To be sure.
But in the end, if you have mortgage debt, they will pursue you to the ends of the earth. And I think we all know that's true anyway. They will go after you. They won't waste any resources. And that documentary that we seen during the week, I think you stuck it up on the OIM YouTube channel, in relation to the Bank of Ireland and the lengths that they will go. If you haven't seen it, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a UTV documentary, wasn't it? Or
it was a BBC Northern Ireland did a documentary on exposing Bank of Ireland, and if you go over to the OIM YouTube page, you can go over there, you'll actually see the documentary. We've put it up there, and you can have a listen to it, and it'll just blow your mind. The things that the banks, the lies that they come out with is unbelievable. So check it out.
Yeah, it wasn't just the lies, but even the girl, when she's in the office, she works for the bank, and even she was putting things in place to defraud, and she, by her own admission, I could go to prison for this, she says, but she's still done it anyway. It's a great documentary. It really I think we all knew the banks were very, very corrupt anyway. This is just it's more proof, is what it is. But I believe the lady was actually taken in, and she wasn't reprimanded, but I think she has gone on to bigger and better things. So anyway, and also in the broadsheets there, the IrishMirror.ie, they say a politician has been arrested on suspicion of sexually assaulting a young female relative. We've heard this during the week, and it says the well-known man who was also at the centre of a high-profile court case a number of years ago was arrested in the Midwest in the past month and questioned by detectives about the claims. He had since been released, and Gardaí are preparing a file for the DPP, that's the Director of Public Prosecutions. A senior source revealed that the man is likely to be charged with a number of counts of sexually assaulting a minor. And breakingnews.ie say a statement from the Gardaí this afternoon comes just hours after former Minister Pat Carey announced he was stepping down as Director of Elections for Fianna Fáil. Mr Carey said he does not know if allegations about sexual abuse carried in a national newspaper this week relate to him. Well, that's interesting.
Surely you should know whether it does or not.
That's funny. So, I mean, is he saying he's not sure if it relates to him? Does that mean he has something that he wants to cover up and doesn't? I mean, again, you look, he steps down, and this, if it was him, we're not saying it was, we don't know, but you step down, and things have a habit in Ireland of once you step down, they disappear.
Methinks Mr Carey is a little bit pregnant. He's not too sure, is he?
Yeah, he might be or he might not be.
Yeah,
you know.
He's not too sure, he's only a little bit. Okay, let's bring our guest in. Right, Dr. Cipollone. Dr. Joseph Cipollone has been on the show twice before, and it's great to have Dr. Joseph back on again. We're going to be talking about end times prophecies. And Dr. Cipollone is going to be completely honest. He's going to say the way he sees it and the information that he has. We're going to go over just to kind of revisit a little bit of information just for new people listening to the show. People who aren't familiar with Dr. Joseph's work, and why he thinks that we're coming to the end of universally on the planet and everything else. And we'll find out new things have developed. Now, there's a couple of things that were predicted to happen over the last few months. They didn't happen. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe there is a good reason for that. I don't know. But we'll find out. So, good evening, Dr. Cipollone. How are you?
Good evening, Alan. I'm well, and you?
Not too bad at all. Thanks very much again for getting up so early in the morning. Dr. Joseph is in Australia, and it's about 5:20 in the morning, I believe, over there. So, thanks again, Dr. Joseph, for getting up early. Before we get into talking about the information that you have, let's just kind of revisit a little bit about your bio, your background, and and why you believe that we're at the end times.
Yes. Well, basically, I've known since the age of 2. I've received information. I know this is going to be hard for people to believe. I was in communication with other levels. This is not unusual. Many people are in communication with many other levels, some good, some bad. It reminds me of the fact that I think it was either 8 million or 8% of the population in the United States was surveyed at one time to show that they had contact with aliens. Some of them had been abducted and so on. If you read Friedrich Nietzsche and an Indian philosopher called Sri Aurobindo, they prophesied that in the near future there would be supermen, people who would contact what they call the supramental plane and gain information for the massive changes that were to occur to the Earth and humanity. I can quite clearly state that I was one of those. I had massive experiences even as a young man. When I started university to study medicine, I received a message that I wouldn't be needed for another 20 years or so, as things were evolving. And around in my 40th year, I made communication again. They called me, in fact. And from there, I received information which I wrote in many books about what was to occur. And one of the things that was occur, the major thing, was that finally this planet would be disintegrated by no later than 2035, and earlier if possible. And there would be consequences of that, and a separation of the various entities on the planet, and the reason why, and how it's come that way, and why all this information was hidden. Since that time, of course, we have had developments that have accelerated this disintegration, and we are now in the process, as everyone that's not blind can see, of disintegration of minds, bodies, environment, climate, economies, everything. Everything is breaking down. And the major aspect of it, if you stand back, is madness that is affecting people. especially those in control of the planet. And there's a very good reason for that too, and I want to go into it as well. The two things, important things that have occurred since my last show with you are, one, the occurrence of Planet X and what it means to us on this plane, and secondly, strong evidence that, as I said, the entire solar system is fracturing. Not only that, the solar system is part of the galaxy, and part of the galaxy, all the galaxy is going to eventually disappear. Now, this is not a one-off process. As I've mentioned in my books and in my posts and writings and website, I have to make it clear that, although people don't realize or understand this, that the physical universe has been steadfastly being destroyed brick by brick, and we are now in the last 4 or 5% of the physical universe. So this process has been occurring for a long, long time. Now, so what is happening in our galaxy, in our solar system, and on our Earth is part of a process that has disintegrated and made 95% of the universe disappear. So it's not an overnight thing to take us all by surprise. Some of us on this planet have been involved in that work in other eras, and this is important to understand. We are not just single entities that have a one life, or we have many lives, and we have many incarnations, not only on this level, but on other levels. And as people wake up to this information, they recall that. The important thing to know, to understand what is going on, is to ask the question, why is the whole physical universe being disintegrated? And that is the very key that will allow people an understanding of why the Earth is going bad, as it were, why society is disintegrating, why an end is being called to this, and why other things are going to occur. I think in a nutshell, that should be our stepping stone, our starting point to understand what's going on. And I want people to realize that this information, although it has been available throughout the eons, has been very much hidden from people so that they wouldn't know what was going on. And that in itself is a very evil aspect of humanity. But it's not humanity's fault, it's the fault of those who are in control. And for that we have to get on to who is control, what their essence is, and so on and so forth. I hope that's a good basis for our discussion this evening.
Yeah, definitely. I think people also need to know or be reminded that you are a qualified medical doctor, and that you have been, they tried to kill you 3 times, if memory serves me well, from interviews that we've done in the past. Now, also, what you've mentioned there about the Planet X, a lot of people are now beginning to report the second sun. Even the likes of Kesh, the Iranian scientist, who's releasing the Magrav free energy device that you can buy now or you can develop yourself. He's talking about the second sun. I've seen more and more people posting photos and videos up seeing a second sun, which is quite interesting. So it's obviously we're going to be seeing it probably maybe next year. We're going to be seeing it, hopefully, depending on how close it's coming in. And so that's quite interesting. But one of the things that you also said, and I've asked a number of people this question, and they have come back to me and they said they agreed with it. You always say that in the last 20 years, has your life and or society got worse or better? And the majority of people who I asked that question to, they all say it's getting worse. And it seems that the negatives are getting more negative and the positives are getting more positive. And obviously there's a reason for that. So do you want to, touch base on any of them?
Okay, let's go through the Planet X. Most of us who are awake have received information that Planet X is out there and on its way. A lot of people have had dreams and visions of it, and they've seen it as the winged planet. Now, I think it was around about August or September, I took a photo of the setting sun with an infrared camera, and there it was. After that, it disappeared. That was on its leg going into the sun, and since then, of course, it has turned and is on its way out of the solar system, and we will see it again by late December, everyone is saying, with the naked eye. And it will reach us as a 6 months turnaround by March of next year. Now, unfortunately, as astronomers have noted, this does not respond to normal celestial calculations. It doesn't obey normal Copernican principles. So we don't know its velocity, we don't know its trajectory, we don't know its degree of acceleration to reach escape velocity. So it's pretty much a guess until we see it, until we can calculate it. But having said that, I believe that we will see it by the end of December. It will cause massive disruption between December and March due to its dust, the meteors it sends off. Many have reported this around the world, and not the dust so much yet, but the exploding little meteors. And by then, from March to June, the gravitational effects on this planet will be massive. So much so that we will get volcanic eruption, shifting of the tectonic plates, tsunamis, bad weather, the dust that will poison everything on the surface, and so on. So much so that it will precipitate the Earth into a fall of the poles, a physical fall of the poles. Now, this time it's going to be far more dramatic than ever before. In past visitations by this Planet X, a number of things have occurred. From the very minimum, when it passed while the Earth was on the side opposite to it compared to the Sun, in relation to the Sun, to when it was very close and it caused massive disruption, as has been reported by over 200 notations in the past history of this planet, including the Noah's Ark business. Of course, that's allegorical, and people shouldn't take it verbatim as word for word. We can get onto this misrepresentation of history in due course. But anyway, on this occasion, I'm here to tell you that it's going to be a massive disturbance to the Earth, so much so that no one will physically survive. The planet is scheduled for the total destruction. And when these higher beings say that this is so, it will be so. The people that, as you know, are the elites all around the world since the late 40s have known that this would probably occur and have been preparing DUMBs, as they're called, underground bases for their people, for the elites, all around the world. They think they will survive, but they won't. In fact, they will drown in boiling lava as this Earth disintegrates. So this will occur by late July, August of this year, after which other things will occur, and eventually the entire solar system will fracture. So we'll be out of this dimension. Do we physically die? Yes. Nearly all of us will physically die. Some will be taken up into crafts and have their physical body disintegrated there, and they will continue as the spiritual forms. The other major thing that has occurred since I last spoke to you is that we now have clear evidence of an outside influence from the center of the galaxy that is affecting the solar system and all the planets within it, to allow us to conclude that an act of disintegration is occurring. And this includes the brightness of the planets, their heating up, the activity of neutrinos, and so on. Now, people have missed that, and they've said, oh, no, it's due to Planet X. Well, that's impossible. The Planet X is a tiny little dwarf sun, that's about 4 or 5 times the size of planet Earth. It couldn't possibly have these effects over the entire solar system. This is due to a supercharged wind that's coming from the center of the galaxy, affecting the whole galaxy. Some have speculated that it's coming from the black hole that's in the center of the galaxy, but there's no need to speculate. It's part of the disruption. I mentioned this dirty wind when I did a show with Jeff Rentz in 2012, and he said, do you think the Earth will disintegrate by December 2012? And I said, no, not yet. Nothing much is going to occur except that we'll start to see this dirty wind coming from the center of the galaxy. And now we have absolute proof with our scientific instruments that is the case. These are the two important things you have to know. Now, people have to know also why this is happening and where they're going to go. I mean, it's very important. All of a sudden, here is someone like me saying, oh, the entire planet is going to be destroyed and we're moving elsewhere. What's going on? Where are we going? Who's doing this and why? And we have to get back to this. Now, when I explain what's going to happen and how, we have to destroy the concept that the religions have put forth, that this is God coming on a cloud to judge everybody and so on and so forth. That is absolute rubbish. What is occurring has to do with spiritual judgment, but the judgment had occurred a long time ago, and a sorting out has actually occurred. Let me go back a little bit. In my books and website, I mentioned in an essay that is still on various websites, I mentioned that in November 1999, in preparation for the total disintegration, the majority of what I've called viable souls were removed spiritually. Now, people didn't take notice of that word spiritually and laughed at me and said, oh, how could 1 billion people disappear? They're still all here. Of course, their bodies were still all here, but the consciousness was removed. And they say, well, how can the bodies function if the consciousness is removed? That question indicates more their ignorance rather than their knowledge. The bodies are driven by basically three things in the human aspect. They are driven by a lowly consciousness that forms from the body cells itself. That consciousness dies immediately on the death of the body. But the body also has an etheric coating, which is electromagnetic, that can continue for a few years or a few hundred years after the body dies, and that is what we see as wraiths, as ghosts, as apparitions, and so on. The third mechanism that the body has, the physical body, is the astral body. Now, this astral body will continue until all matter is destroyed. All three aspects have been created by the evil principle. I'll come back to that in a moment. So the astral body is the one that goes up into the astral world, which is a dimension around the globe. All planets have their own astral worlds, and people continue there in the same way they continue here. In fact, we've been able to communicate with those for some time now. People, when they have near-death experiences, can often go into the astral world and communicate and come back. And that will continue ad infinitum until the physical dimension is totally destroyed. On top of all that, there are some beings that accommodate even higher consciousness. And this is what is meant by a connection to a supramental plane. Throughout history, there have been various beings that have had these walk-in consciousnesses, shall we call them, and many of them have called them the Christ energy. The Christ energy is a consciousness that comes from far beyond our level of understanding, our level of consciousness, and it drives certain beings, like the most famous one being Jesus of Nazareth, but there have been many others, and they come in groups in each generation. It's not a single individual. There are many other supportive individuals. Now, Jesus himself was a class 4 being, the physical body, that is, like I've described, with a physical body and its lower consciousness, an etheric body, an astral body, and this Christ essence, energy. And their role mainly is to sustain the viable beings until the end time came, and now the end time is here. So to say that he was unique, was the only one, and he was killed to save us from our sins and to open the gates of heaven, is absolute nonsense that the pseudo-Christian religions have created in order to confuse the issue. So where we're at now is that 1 billion of the viable beings have been removed, were removed in 1999, And some of my readers have mapped out the changes that occurred from that time to show that the divine energy level of this Earth has dropped dramatically. Now, at the same time as this occurred, I was told, and I have witnessed this, that the majority of the divine energy, the light energy, would be removed from the planet, which would fall into utter darkness and evilness in order to self-destruct. And that is exactly what we are seeing now. You yourself said that there's more and more evil. Yes, evil is now manifest. It's always been there, but now it has no opposition and it can do what it likes. And evil always destroys. So it's being allowed to destroy itself, believe it or not.
Okay.
And the Bibles that remain here are able to see this. In some of the old texts, you will note that in the end time, spiritual vision will be restored, and we'll all know who's who. And in fact, those of us who are awakened can now see who are the robotic beings with no souls and who are the demonic beings. And they are now the majority on this level. And these demonic beings came about as a separate creation to the divine viable beings that we see. So at the moment on the planet, we have the awakened beings. We have approximately 650 million beings who are still viable. They are the robotic beings, the viable, theomorphic viable beings were separated in 1999. We have 650 million of these viable robots, and the remaining basically are 51% demonic beings that can't go anywhere. They have to be totally destroyed, and 49% are robotic beings that are going nowhere. They are non-viable. So that's where we're at.
Okay, and can I jump in there on that? Because while you're talking on that subject about the viables, I just want to mention as well that you said 650 million, and now if you take roughly the population on the planet of about 7 billion, just for argument's sake. We had Paddy Brassard on our show a few weeks ago, and we asked Paddy the same question, and she said that 8%, which is near enough around the same number, and she called everybody avatars, and the 8%. I don't think she had a name for the 8%, but she said 8% of the population will be okay, and then everybody else are just avatars, and that'll be they'll be taken care of. From a planetary point of view. Now, I also had a Skype conference with Simon Parkes during the week off the air, and I asked Simon about this, and I said, what's your take on this, Simon? And Simon said, well, yes, he said, 8% is the lowest number, 12% is the highest number. But he said, yes, he said, that is the case. That's really, what he feels is going to happen. But they have their own opinion on what will happen. Simon doesn't believe that it's going to be the end of the planet. Although he does say that the 8% or the 10%, whatever you figure what you want to put on it, will be able to breed, will be able to have children, and then their children will have the essence of the energy of the soul energy and spirit to carry on, while all the demonic negative people won't be able to have children, and then they'll just kind of fade out, and then the positive people will actually, overtake the planet in time. Now that's his take on it. Now whether he's right or you're right or Paddy's right it's open to debate. But at least the three of you do agree that there is a percentage there of people that will be I won't say saved, but they'll be chosen for better things.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that the figures sort of coincide a bit. Well, the fact is that people can believe what they like. My motto is take it or leave it. So it's up to people to accept what they want to accept. But if whatever they accept today may change tomorrow. The thing is that it wouldn't make any sense for that to occur unless the physical is being removed. Why go through all this if the physical is not going to be removed? That's nonsense. The fact is that if you extrapolate the mechanisms of destruction that are occurring on the Earth now, there will be no Earth, even if Planet X doesn't turn up, by 2024. We know that the Fukushima radiation of scientists have predicted will destroy every living thing on Earth. So that's one. The aliens aren't going to come. They're under strict control by the superior light beings. They're terrified of moving anywhere, because they're going to be destroyed as well. They're evil. They're not going to come and neutralize that negativity, the radiation, like they claim they can do. Neither can the beings from the hollow Earth come in and interfere with this. This is a plan for total destruction of the planets, and including Earth and the entire solar system and this galaxy, like has occurred in other galaxies, as I've said before, in 95% of the universe, which is no longer there. Scientists have noted they can't find it. Now, I picked that up. I was told that 30 years ago that this had occurred, and now it's the turn of this neck of the woods to be totally dissolved. Once you dissolve the physical, there's only the spiritual remains. Other dimensions remain. And the whole point is that this physical universe is being totally destroyed because it's an evil apparatus. It's been created by an evil essence. Now, how that evil essence occurred is the conundrum. Apparently the evil essence, this evil mind that created all this in contradiction to the divine universal laws, came about from an error, an experimental error that light beings were conducting. And rather than allow itself to be corrected, the mind became more and more powerful as they put in more and more energy to correct it, so that eventually it declared it was the one and only God, that no others existed, and it set up its own creation. The problem was the energy source was cut off from it, and the only energy it could gain was from the energy of the divine beings that are trapped in it. So this is where the basis of why the destruction is occurring happens. It will eventually run out of energy, as the second law of thermodynamics says. Once you run out of energy in a closed system, it collapses upon itself, and this is what's happening now, and we can see it very clearly on Earth. We are running out of energy, not the physical energy of oil and sunlight and those things, but the divine energy that runs the units of consciousness inside all the bodies. Now, that is one of the reasons why the light extracted itself from here, to allow the evil beings to run out of energy. As they run out of energy, their mind collapses, because the apparatus that was feeding them in this sector has been dismantled. And that apparatus was called the Jehovah or Yahweh consciousness. That is gone. If you're praying to Jehovah, you're praying to an empty space. That Jehovah is the equivalent to Satan or the evil principle or the devil. So now it's on a course, unstoppable course, to totally disintegrate. And once these beings disintegrate, they become inert, and that's the end of them totally. The other ones have been fed. As I said, the other ones that came in have been fed by these beings that came in with the Christ light throughout the eons to supply them with energy. And in actual fact, in this last generation, we've brought in what's called a new green energy that people have seen, that is nourishing those who are viable, but it's destructive for those who are non-viable. As well as that, there's another active energy now that's come in to accelerate the destructive process of the planet. So for all intents and purposes, the planet is finished. If anyone is psychic and they look beyond 2019, they will see nothing. We'll be on the other level, and another dimension, rather, non-evil dimension.
Okay, I'd just like to get Steve's take on this. Steve, what's your take on it? How do you feel about your viewpoint from the negative point of view? What's your take on that?
Well, look, there's a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of positivity as well, and I've just been noticing here in the chat room that some people, that there was a listener earlier on, though, Dr. Joseph, and he was there, and when he heard the subject matter and where we were going with tonight's discussion, he said he couldn't take any more of the negativity, so he had to leave. So he's actually logged off the chat room. But I mean, there's a lot of people on here, and they're listening to what you're saying, and they're saying, yeah, there is a lot of negativity in the world, and there's a lot of people saying here that there's a lot of positivity as well, and it's just people who are positive within themselves. Like one of our listeners here, Joan is saying that she's comfortable. You know, you have to be comfortable within your own skin and who you are and basically what you are. And, you know, that seems to be enough for a lot of people. A lot of people are viewing what you're saying as just information. You know, it's something that, okay, it may happen down the line, but if it does, they're ready to accept it. You know, they're not going to be scared of what you're saying. They seem to be, you know, it's a case of bring it on. You know, I'm comfortable, I'm ready. Say la vie, or is that French? I think it's whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever will be. You know what?
Yeah. Yeah, que sera,
Que sera. Not say la vie, sorry, que sera. That seems to be the attitude of a lot of people. So therefore, like, there is a lot of negativity, but from within that negativity, there's a little glimmer of positivity as well.
See, I like you're saying there, Steve, and I think that Dr. Joseph does say it, that the people who are kind of saying, yeah, okay, bring it on. If it's going to happen, let it happen. If it doesn't happen, doesn't happen. They're the people who are probably tuned in and are the viables, so they're not concerned about it, where the people who are kind of afraid of this possibility, well, maybe they're not on the viable side. What do you think, Dr. Joseph?
Yes, look, it's absolutely right. The people that are comfortable with it are already realizing that they are being released from a very negative environment. And this is what we want. We've been waiting for this deliver us from evil for a long, long time. And the ones that are comfortable with this situation have the realization that we're escaping from an evil trap. We continue, the consciousness continues elsewhere. And for us, it doesn't make any difference. It's like stepping from one room of your house into another, but into a much better environment. There's no reason for fear at all. There's no reason to fear death. We've all died many, many times and are still here. But they have to see it as a cleansing effect, a liberation from it. The whole point is that it's the resolution of a war of essences between good and evil. And if people can't see that, you know, they're still blinded by the negativity. The fact that we can now see who's who, we can see these reptilians in physical bodies, we can see these demonic beings, entities in physical bodies, means that now there's an end time and a separation of who we are and who they are. And that's a good thing. You won't be exploited as much by them. You'll be able to avoid them. You'll be able to avoid the traps. And as you see disintegration as occurs with these wars they're running, these false flags, they can't take a trick. We can now see all the moves that evil beings are taking to exploit us of energy and to destroy, self-destruct. And we say that is a good thing because the resolution of all this is now occurring. That's the positive aspect of it. If, in fact, you're a negative being, you're going to be filled with fear because now you have to account for everything you've done. And what you've done is stolen energy from positive beings in order to survive. But anyone that's wanted to go to the light, as it were, has been given the opportunity. But the numbers are fixed. It's finalized. It's been finalized. The last ones to be finalized were the animals, the vegetables and minerals. And that occurred over 2 years ago. We are now just waiting for the total release and evacuation into new dimensions.
Okay. What about the predictions that were put out there and things haven't happened? Like there's supposed to be the Californian earthquake, and then there was supposed to be an asteroid prediction for September, and there's a few other things, and nothing of that happened. Is there a reason for that? Do you know why that didn't happen?
Yeah, of course. Let me preface this by saying that prophecy is a tool of warfare. Sometimes you have two fighting sides, good and evil, and they often put out predictions to fool the enemy. With the Californian earthquake, I don't know whether you heard the show, I did a show with Jeff Friends just before that.
Yeah.
I said there's a 4% window where they'll block it. And they did that. Now, before I did the show, I spoke with a lot of my psychic friends, and 100% of us were 100% certain it would occur. But it didn't occur. They blocked it. There was that 4% chance. Now, but it will occur. Now, the meteor is still waiting there. It's still circulating the sun, between Venus and Mercury. It was supposed to be kicked out of that orbit and hit Earth as Planet X flew into the Sun. But it didn't. It didn't trigger its escape. So what I think will happen is, on the way back, Planet X will knock it, gravitationally that is, not physically, back into Earth. And that should occur around about March. So these possibilities are always there. We have to always talk about possibilities and their energy blocks or energy fluxes that occur. It's the same as World War III. It was supposed to occur in 2007, but it didn't change, so the cycle is every 7 years. It's supposed to be 2014, and if the Earth was supposed to last, it may come 2021. We don't know on this level when those things are going to precipitate, but it doesn't matter, because sooner or later they will occur. No one should take prophecy seriously. Prophecy happens when it happens. If it doesn't happen, it didn't happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't say exactly. It's like St. Malachi's prophecies about the popes, and this one being the last pope. They seem to be very accurate, but changes can occur. For example, with Edgar Cayce, he mentioned the polls, but I think he mentioned 1998 or something like that. There can be variations, so we have to be open-minded about this. That's why my friend said to me, the Earth will be destroyed by no later than 2035. But it can be any time between when they told me 1985 and 2035. So we just have to be flexible. I gave the time correlation between the dimensions they work in and our dimensions, and it's something like 2.5 million to 1. In other words, every second that passes where they are is quite a few months on this level. So that even if they're out by 20 seconds, shall we say, that might be a 5-year delay on this level. So it doesn't make much sense to us to stick precisely to prophecy. I know I seem to be making an excuse about it, but that's what I've learned over the last 30 years.
Well, it's very hard, because as you go up in dimensions, time kind of speeds up. So 2 seconds in the 5th dimension could be 5 years in the 3rd dimension. So obviously, if there's a spirit do this as well, and people go for a reading, and they'll go to a medium and ask for a reading, and they might get some information and say, in a couple of months' time, something X is going to happen, or you're going to buy a new car or something like that. I mean, just imagine being on the 5th dimension, trying to work out the time. If you were in a desert and you didn't have a watch, and it was in the, it's very hard to tell the time. If it was during the day, is it 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock? How do you work it out if you don't have a watch? So I suppose if you're on higher dimensions trying to pass information down, then it's going to be a rough idea, and hence why the times can be a little bit off. But we have a few questions for you come in on the chat room, so over to you, Steve.
Yeah, Dr. Joseph, I think I remember when you were on with us before, you said that whatever was going to happen, it would have to be within your lifetime. So by that, I think that's kind of given you a longer life now, so you're going to be with us till at least 2035. Is that correct?
I don't think so. That's what they told me. They said I have to be here for the last day. Now, since that I've realised that the group that's with me will also have to be here. That was another way of assessing the end point.
Yeah.
Now, I was 40 and a very fit man when they told me that in 85. I was 41 actually. And I thought, well, that's another 50 years. 91, my goodness, that's 13, 14 years more than the expected life expectancy of a male in Australia. So I thought, oh, that might be a little bit difficult. Since that time, the end point has come closer. So now, with the prediction of Planet X, Well, first of all, let's go back before Planet X, Fukushima. Most scientists agreed that by 2024, life would be unsustainable on planet Earth.
Yeah.
I thought that's doable. That's pretty good. But then it came closer and closer to the present point. So from 24, I got 22, then 19, then 17, then 16. Now, when I got 16, I was reluctant to publicize that fact because I couldn't quite see the mechanism that would bring it on so quickly. But since we've calculated the pathway, the presumed pathway of Planet X, it's very doable. Many people now who are into Planet X and its calculations agree that it may well be as early as I say, July, August 2016. Others have gone to 17, others have gone to 18. So it's most likely that I will be here for those times. Now, whether people want to believe that or not, it doesn't matter. They have to believe what's in their own hearts. If they don't want to accept that, they don't have to. No one is forcing them. We just wait and see what happens. I think what they have to be is flexible, because things can always change in a war. So if, for example, the Planet X flies off at right angles that doesn't affect us, well, no one's going to cry over it. Something else will occur that will bring it on. But if these beings are accurate, and they said that the Earth will finish before 2035, and we see the mechanisms that are destroying Earth totally, we have to accept that something is going on. Now, apart from Planet X, we have this problem with the Sun. It's becoming erratic. And they claim that a massive ejection could terminate life on Earth immediately. So there are many things that can occur. The whole point is that the good beings are being taken away to a new dimension, and the negative beings that can't exist in those dimensions are finished. That's the whole message.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking, could you imagine if you actually live until the year 2034? I think a lot of people would look back at your predictions and they will be absolutely crapping themselves because, well, obviously you will be a very, very good age then, probably unheard of in history. And I think people.
No, I'd be 91
in 2035.
Yeah, in 2035. A lot of people are living into their 90s now.
Sorry. I do apologise. I done the calculations wrong. Sorry, I thought you would have been older than that. I do apologise. Okay, that was just an error on my part. But again, like you speak of the beings, we actually heard as well. Again, like there's so much information out there that we don't know what's true, but we heard as well from a different source that a lot of the beings who are kind of hidden in the background, that they will never make themselves known, even though people say that there will be a disclosure. Some people say that there will never be a disclosure because we would need more than 50% of the people on Earth to be awake and be consciously looking for outside alien intervention to fix the problems on this planet. And they say that like you're never going to get 51% of people on this planet to be awake.
You mean alien disclosure by governments and so on?
Yeah.
No, not so much disclosure. No, but disclosure, and they're saying that if we had a consciousness, if we were to raise our consciousness, and over 50% of the planet were awake and all wanting peace, and we had no other way of getting this peace except for alien intervention, that they won't intervene unless there is a majority of people on the planet actually wanting it.
That's nonsense. Most of the aliens around the planet, as I've said, are quite evil. They are also being transmuted. They're trapped. They're not allowed to move between planets now. They're stymied, as it were. The good aliens are the ones that are not presenting at the moment, are the ones carrying out this eradication of evil and destruction of the planet. They're the ones that are going to rescue us. Now, we don't have to have a percentage to awaken in any sort of way. It has to be an individual thing. If people turn inward and gain this spiritual vision, they'll be able to see there are aliens in physical bodies. They'll be able to see reptiles. They'll be able to see demons and so on. We don't have to have a massive awakening. That can never happen because, as we said, 51% are also demonic, and they're quite anxious to prevent that awakening. So the other robots, dead sleeping robots, it leaves about 41%. They don't care. They're already finished. All they do is they're the useless eaters we see around the planet. They have the awareness of dead slugs. No, that's quite wrong. What you want to do is open up internally, get the pathways to your own helpers and beings on other levels, and proceed from there. The whole thing is a mental preparation for a termination of the physical, but the physical doesn't mean anything. It's an illusion. That's the problem. This knowledge has been hidden for so long from people that they don't realize. Most people don't realize that there's life outside of the physical. Now, people who are frightened by this and go away have got a lot to lose. But if people awaken and internalize all this information and awaken to their own being, they will get the guidance they need. Now, we don't all need the same guidance, but they'll be happy enough to continue until this change happens. Now, I think it was, wasn't it Jesus that said the kingdom of heaven is within?
Yeah.
What he was saying there is you don't need religions. You don't need people to tell you what to believe and not to believe. Everything you know is inside you. So if people turn within, it may be totally different to what your neighbour thinks or your wife or your children or so on, but that's what's right for you. So you just follow that as long as you are cleansed enough so you don't let negative entities affect you. And unfortunately, there are so many negative entities around that they can spoil the party, as it were. Now, there's a negativity pool around the world, and that's becoming more agitated and negative by the day. And that's why we're constantly bombarded by these bad thoughts and doubts and fears and so on. That pool is what they use to control the minds on this planet. That is the class 5, the evil class 5s, who control humanity. And unless you block away from it, you could suffer a bit of terminal madness as well. Anyone could suffer it unless they protect themselves from that. And the best way of protecting themselves is to connect to their own inner being, their own inner heaven, as it were. It's a very real thing, and if people do it, they will feel much better. Now, I put this stuff out, and I give people the choice of whether they want to believe it or not. But ultimately, we have to accept what the evidence shows. I said 30 years ago that the light will be pulled out of the planet and it will deteriorate massively, and it has done. I said that minds will be affected so that people will undergo terminal madness, and that's what we've seen. We've seen an accelerated thing of that. I said that the evil beings will come out more and more, that all their processes by which they keep us trapped will be exposed, and that's happened. And I said that the mechanisms will occur to cause eventual physical destruction, and that's what we have. We have this explosive bomb, Planet X, coming towards us. We are already suffering the effects of it. All around the world, they're having these explosive little meteorites. Is that not so? We've had massive changes to the climate. We have most unusual weather. For example, here we're subtropical. We've had storms every day for the last 2 weeks. They've had cyclones and other tropical storms in the southern part of Australia, which is unheard of. This is supposed to be an El Nino year, a massive El Nino year, where we get drought. We're being flooded out. So something dramatically has changed. And I think that you can blame on the effects of Planet X. And this is going to get worse.
Oh, I will say, Dr. Joseph, that there's mysterious spheres fallen from the sky. A few of them have fallen in Spain. And I know over in not just Spain, but in other countries as well. I'm just looking here. In Africa, they've landed in Africa and they've landed in South America. And they're black spheres. And they're wondering why they were falling. Now, when a couple of farmers in Spain were told that it's like space debris or something like that, they kind of said fair enough. But then more of them start following. And there was an article there recently on November 12th, which I have on screen at the moment, and more spheres are falling. Do you know what they are?
A lot of those are inert spheres. Our side has put a lot of them there that form a network so that the evil aliens can't escape, fly away, and also the evil aliens themselves have others that have left there, like the Black Knight that you read about.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, you have to understand there's also a space war between these aliens. That they fight among themselves, like we fight here, like Islam fighting Christianity, the Americans fighting everyone else they can get their hands on, and so on. And it's the same thing with the aliens. There are inter-alien wars and intra-alien wars. The goodies are fighting the baddies, and the baddies are fighting among themselves as well. And that is precipitating more and more on this planet. We've got to expect more and more of that. There have been a lot of spacecraft that have been shot down, but governments hide that. There have been ones in South Africa, there have been in Russia, there have been in America, as you know. They've been everywhere. But the minute they happen, the military get in and block all knowledge of those off because they don't want people to know.
Okay.
And if you look at these things, you know that that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I just posted the link up there on the OIM chat there for the mysterious spheres, so listeners can have a look at that. You have more questions there, Steve?
Yeah, I have quite more questions, but I also have a comment there from one of the listeners. They say to OIM, they are falling stars. We were told of this in the Bible. In the end times, the stars would fall from heaven to earth. What do you think about that, Joseph?
Stars are huge structures. If a star was to come in to our solar system, could you imagine? Well, for example, Planet X is an unburnt star, and it's tiny in comparison, and look at all the problems it's causing. If those were stars that were to fall on Earth, they would be so huge and they would cause so much destruction that it would be inconceivable to realize. No, they're not stars, of course. They're just they can be debris, they can be structures from the aliens that have lost momentum, they can be all sorts of things, and they can be spacecraft parts that are falling, they've been shot down.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I know Alan has put up the link there, so I mean, we ask everyone who's interested in that, just go and just click that link and see what you think. We'll continue on with the questions. Chris sent in a question, Dr. Joseph, at the beginning of the show, and he wants to know, can you ask the doctor, can our past lives be in our future, and vice versa?
Well, we have memory of past lives, but only when we're out of the physical, because there's a filtering mechanism in these bodies that prevent us from knowing them. There are ways of bypassing that, and in fact it's called past life regression, where you get hypnotized, but you only see individual scenes, as it were, of different lives, and often it's difficult to differentiate one from another. But no, once we're out of here, all the memory of the physical existence is going to be totally blocked out. We won't remember the pain, suffering, misery that we incurred while living in the evil system. We won't remember any of this. In fact, I've spoken to beings who have crossed over, beings that are in this work and not in this work, and almost immediately, within a week of their death, they have absolutely no knowledge of this past life. And when you ask them that, and they say, well, it's so insignificant, there have been so many past lives, that they don't identify with the physical past lives. I hope that makes sense to you, because there might be thousands of lives. This has been going on for 50 billion years in the physical universe. That's a long, long time. Now, most of people that are on the planet have had past lives in other galaxies, in other planets, and so on. And sometimes accidentally they recall those, but only in an instance. There are cases where they've been kidnapped from other planets and brought to this one. This is a real torture chamber, this Earth, and they've been brought into the bodies of large birds or whales or porpoises and so on. And many of these people recount this, and they've experienced it. So all these horrendous lifetimes are not going to be recalled at all. There'd be no point in wanting to make people suffer all the more in the clear dimensions. So all that memory is going to be wiped. There's nothing useful. Whatever has been useful has already been recorded in the higher levels, and that will be used for progression. But all the negative aspects are not going to be recalled. I was told that specifically. We won't remember anything. So don't worry how much you're suffering now. Don't worry what the evil ones have done to you and so on. It's not going to count in the slightest. For the evil beings, for the demonic beings, it's a slightly different path. And until they're totally transmuted, they have to repay all the pain and suffering they've caused innocent ones. But I won't go into that, but that is divine justice at work.
Yeah, I like the sound of that, actually, because there's a lot of people who have done a lot of injustice, and they're psychopathic. Well, we call them psychopaths anyway. So it will be nice to know that when the day of reckoning comes, that those of us who, from what we know in this life, maybe, well, I'm guessing the fact that we're in this life and we're doing good things, obviously we've learned a lot from past lives. And again, I suppose the only way to be sure of what we've learned is through past life regression. But then again, there's no point in going over past life regression, because it's not going to really affect it, because what we're doing today. And I just hope that if the day of reckoning does come, be it 2035 or sooner, that the likes of us who are on this path where we are doing good things, like yourself as well, spreading the information and giving people fair warning, that we do ascend to a higher place, and those who have done wrong, well, hopefully they'll get to live a couple more lives and get to the same place.
Oh yes, it's very much on the cards now. This illustrates another point, not recalling past lives and the mistakes we've made, highlights how evil the system is. How can you progress? People say this is a classroom where we're progressing towards a divine point. How can you possibly progress and learn if you can't remember anything? Now, this was done on purpose so people would be continually stumbling again and again and again. That is very evil. The system is very evil. It's there to exploit beings with the energy and to eventually destroy them in order to keep the evil system running. If it was a true equitable system, we would remember our past lives, we'd remember all the mistakes, and we'd all become divine beings very quickly, because we would not make those mistakes. Besides, in a divine system, there would be no mistakes to be made. If we made an error in any shape or form, it would be instantly corrected and we'd move on. But that is not so in this system. This system is very evil. It's for total exploitation of some for the benefit of the others. But they were doomed from the very start. The moment the Jehovah principle said, I'm the one and only God, there are no other gods before me, he was doomed. Because the divine female, or the mother essence, said, you're a fool, Saklas, that's what she called him, and said, by your own words, you've condemned yourself. And so from that moment on, the process of destruction of this physical universe began. He was doomed, or it was doomed from the very start. And now we are in the point of resolution of that negative aspect, that celestial error, in our neck of the woods. 95%, as I say, has already been totally obliterated. And that would be a good way for people to investigate why scientists can't find 95% of the universe. It's not there. It's finished. So that lends credence to the fact that the total physical universe is going to be obliterated.
Yeah, when you say they can't find 90% of it, I could be wrong on this one, but I thought I heard a couple of, maybe 6 weeks ago, that they were using, some scientists somewhere were using a high-powered telescope, and they were saying that they had discovered more of the universe and not less.
No, what they will see is what was there billions of years ago. Don't forget, it takes that long for the light to travel into this galaxy and into our solar system, but apart from that, you won't see, there's nothing there to see now. Now, go back to this thing when we see the falling stars. That refers to two things. One is when the Earth collapses on its own poles, we will see the stars as if they're falling. But in actual fact, they're constant, the light of the stars, that is, and we are falling. The Earth is falling. So it seems as if, depending on which way the Earth is rotating, as if the stars are falling from the sky. Secondly, as the end time, eventually, if we wait long enough, we will see the light from various sources finish, because there's nothing there to emit light anymore. So the skies will change. But I don't think we'll get to that point. I think we're so close now to the end of this system that we don't have to worry about that. What people should do is really go inwards, go in within their own selves and see what they can get. It's not an easy process, but eventually something will contact them and they will get information. And this process is accelerated now at the end time because they want people prepared for the jump. Now, we're not all going to suffer these horrendous changes, the floodings, the earthquakes, the volcanic eruptions and so on. Some of them are going to be lifted up. And in fact, it could mean instant death. You just drop dead and the spirit is taken up. Not only of yourselves, don't forget, we're talking about the animals. And by the way, a far higher percentage of animals are viable than there are humans. And also for the consciousness of vegetation. This is a very difficult one to explain. If you can have a whole crop with one consciousness, same as a school of fish has one consciousness, and so on. And also the mineral world. There are consciousnesses within the mineral world, and a lot of people are aware of that in the properties of crystals, for example. They know there are beings. Not only that, when people have regressed from past lives and lost so much energy that they can't keep their centers of consciousness going, they often fall in awareness into animal bodies, into vegetable bodies, and then into mineral bodies. A lot of people now are seeing humans in animal bodies, and this is the explanation. They have fallen so much that they can't sustain a class 4 body. They're in a class 3 manifestation and so on. So they shouldn't be worried if they do see this. And as our psychic vision is restored, we'll be seeing more and more of this. Now, the psychic vision can be restored very acutely, very, very quickly, or it can take a little time. And what happens is normally when people are in an alpha state of mind, when they're relaxing, they're distracted, they're doing nothing much, they often interact with other levels, and that's how they get information. At first, it's not going to be accurate at all, but at least a pathway is being made. Now, as I mentioned before, Sri Aurobindo and Friedrich Nietzsche prophesied about this, that there would come a time when humans would become superhuman by contacting the supramental plane. And that's another prediction, another prophecy that has come true. And they only lived 100 years or so ago. So we can see that there has been a steady progression towards this end point. So it's not something I've made up. No one could possibly make up what I'm discussing or what I've written. It has to come from some other source. Because how would we know, outside of our own Earth, outside of our own solar system, that so much of the physical universe has been destroyed? How would we know that there was a celestial error? How would we know that there was a creation of a demonic empire, and so on? These things are unknowable while we're trapped in this little cocoon. That information has to come from outside of us. And this is how we get knowledge and progression. Unfortunately, the more people spoke about this, the past teachers, the more they were either eradicated, as they were with Jesus, Manichaeus, Zoroaster, you name them, they're there. That's the same being, by the way. The more they were destroyed, eradicated from that, and their knowledge hidden. If anyone is interested, they should read the Nag Hammadi library that was discovered last century, the middle of last century, that has a lot of this information. I read that long after I wrote my books. And the Catholic Church, or the Christian Church as it was in those days, banned those manuscripts under punishment of death. And they were destroyed all over the known Christian world in those times, except for one little monastery that decided, one monk decided these are relevant for the future and hid them away in a cave. Now, so the knowledge has been available, but the churches have done their very best to hide all this information. But now, of course, they themselves are undergoing a massive fragmentation, and people are seeing how evil they have been, how they've trapped people, how they've trapped consciousness in this pseudo-reality and made them fearful and made them suffer all the more, rather than liberating them to a viable consciousness, into a viable situation of love and joy. They traumatize people with the fear of hell and punishment and forever wanting money and forever causing these people that they control to go to war. Nearly every war throughout history has a basis on religious hatred. Now, if religions were a pathway to God, that certainly wouldn't be the case. And that's one of the first things that people realize when they start to awaken, that the kingdom of God is not in a church, not in a social club, not in people wanting money, not people putting you down or making you fearful, but inside of you, because that's where the divine element is. And I hope people realize that.
Okay.
And
I think
knowledge would start to think for themselves.
Yeah, I think people need to look into that and at least realise that for themselves. Steve, you have a few more questions there.
I do. Dr. Joseph, when you speak of superhumans, I mean, the fact that we're talking superhumans, obviously we're not depicting something like Superman that flies around. So I mean, if we were to be superhumans, or some of us, how would we know? Are there signs?
Well, by superhuman, these Aurobindo and Nietzsche meant that we are beyond the level of consciousness that is in a normal human. In other words, we connect to something higher. Now, if you read in the history books about mystics, they were psychic beings who connected to something higher, to another level of consciousness that can feed this information. Now, it's not a very complicated process. If you read people that have written about their near-death experiences, they will tell you, and George Ritchie, by the way, a professor of psychiatry, I think he's still active in Tennessee, wrote about his near-death experience, and he demonstrated, or he saw, while he was in out-of-body experience, he saw how knowledge was fed down onto this level from the astral level. In other words, you have a problem in your head, you ask for a solution, being slightly higher than this level, work on that, and then feed it down into this level so that you will get an answer. This has occurred with prophecy, with developments, with inventions, and so on. There have been a lot of examples throughout the era, this last 2,000 years that we've got history of, and this is how it works. So what they meant is that we will connect to another level of consciousness, both actively and passively. What do I mean by that? Well, we reach out actively to try and find new knowledge from another level, or for knowledge that doesn't exist on this level, and passively by allowing ourselves to receive this information from those other levels when they contact us. And I'm the perfect example of that, in a sense, because I've received information which I believe is from another level, and it's been very accurate so far. And I reach out by sitting down and quietly writing, and also they reach out passively to me, that every now and then, when I need to, I receive information that I then write and share with other people. Now, these are keys, these are keynotes. Once they hit a certain area of a person's mind and they awaken, they instantly know that that's correct or not correct. So that's what the mechanism is. The rest of us don't have to know that. but that's the personal awakening. It might be a sentence I write, it might be a word I use, it might be an experience they have, but all of a sudden they have what's called the knowing, the gnosis, the nous, and that knowledge awakens inside of them. You can't become a Gnostic. You either are a Gnostic or you are not a Gnostic. What is Gnosticism? Gnosticism is a description of someone who has the inner wisdom within them. It's the ancient wisdom. This information has been known from the very start of life on this in this universe. They knew about the celestial era, the war that was ensuing, and the eventual liberation. And even in the oldest book that we have, of the Hindu text, they talk about a liberation from this evil world where good men go elsewhere and the wicked will be punished. So we have this as a precedence. And when these notations, these facts, these thoughts impinge on within the person, immediately the treasure of knowledge they have within is ignited and they awaken. And it either happens or it doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, it may mean it's not there. If it doesn't happen, it can also mean that that person is blocked off and they have to work on themselves to avoid or to eradicate the pollution that's caused by the existence on this level. And what do I mean by pollution? By things like the food we eat and the drink we imbibe and other things. There are many factors that block us off. For example, meat eaters are far worse than vegetarians because they get all the pollution of the meat from the animals. And, of course, also drinking excessively, that can cause a cut off of any connection they have to ephemeral levels. So people have to be aware of these things. And once they undergo a path of cleansing, slowly, the information they have inside will impinge on their outer mind. So people know whether this information is right or not right for them almost instantly once they awaken. It's like seeing a demonic entity in a physical body. At first it's frightening, but once you see it, you see it. You can't go back and become spiritually blind again. You know that that's the truth. And you know, for example, that this is an end to this evil system, this evil place, and that the good people are going elsewhere. You either know it or you don't. You don't argue about it, and it's pointless arguing. That's why my motto is, look, take it or leave it.
Well, that's why we say as well that you can't unlearn something that you've learned. So, you know, at the end of the day, if you're seeing entities or, you know, spirits or negative energies, then obviously that's a step in the right direction for you to spot, you know, who you should be aware of.
That's right, and that's the reason why our vision is being restored, so that we can liberate ourselves from all the traps and prevent further damage to ourselves, so that we're sort of like a clean, pure being when we're extracted out of here.
Yeah.
Now, we'll continue our discussions as time goes on, and you will find that these changes will happen. I mean, we're certainly in a totally different place from what we were in 1985. In 1985, none of these mechanisms of clearing were obvious, but they've definitely developed since that time. And now we can see that something very dramatic is happening to the world, to the people. We can now see how you call them psychopaths, I call them demons, how they've controlled the world, how they've exploited people, how they've started wars, how they've used wars to extract more and more energy, because they feed on emotional energy, you see, and that energy extraction is what keeps them going. The evil aliens that also come on this level feed on that energy from certain viable beings on the planet. Now, this was not possible, not feasible to even consider in 1985, but now we see it. We see how they've manipulated the money system. We've seen how they manipulate wars. We've seen how they manipulate via religions and so on. And once we see them, these things collapse. They've got no more power over us. And people are waking up to the whole thing, that it can't continue this way. It must be totally annihilated, and we start again. The thing is, we don't start again in the physical anymore. Like the other 95% of the physical universe that's gone, we will also be gone, but the ones that are viable will go elsewhere and start off.
And we've said this quite a lot about exposing. The more we expose, the more that the system will come down, because any secret society throughout history that has been exposed has not lasted. And we've said this on a number of cases, a number of times on OIM, that we should be exposing, because once they're exposed, they can't hide what's going on. And the more people realise what's happening, the more people will wake up to what's going on.
Bingo, that's it. Once we awaken, they can't fool us anymore, so that they can't get any more energy from us, so the system collapses.
Yeah.
As some of the countries have done with the bankers and so on. They've got the control while we're still comatose, as it were.
Well, we have more questions for you, Dr. Joseph. Steve.
Go ahead.
We have another question, and this one came in a while ago, and they're wondering, Dr. Joseph, have you looked into the INGEN humans who are getting cloned using our DNA? It says these INGENs are men who look like women and women who look like men.
Yeah. Look, the physical body's been cloned for a long, long time by superior aliens. That we know, right?
Yeah.
And even now they're creating human-animal hybrids like the chupacabras, and they've also got these black-eyed children. They've got hybridized humans that they hope will exist in the changing conditions of Earth, because these evil aliens think they can save Earth, which they can't. They were planning on bombing Planet X so it'll move away and not affect the Earth and so on. Yeah, they're just part of their madness to try anything. They created the physical bodies in which the divine consciousness were trapped. It's a complicated story. When they changed the conditions for this physical universe, the viable beings had nowhere to go. They were trapped. So they had to inhabit these bodies in order to continue. And of course that meant a lot of things. It meant falling into the system of the etheric, of the astral world, of reincarnation and so on. But these ones that the consciousness had come in as the Christ light are from outside of this. Now you say, why can't they be trapped? They are visitors, but they're holographic imprints on various beings. I know we're getting a little bit esoteric here. That's why they can't be trapped. But what they do is that the evil system destroys the manifestation. That's why it's killed so many people, so many Gnostics, so many saints over the time, in order to prevent that energy coming in and not only giving energy to the trapped viable beings, but also reminding them of what the history of the whole thing is. So we know that all these hybrids exist, and they exist on other planets as well. And they've experimented with you putting class 4, as I said before, consciousness into class 3s, even class 2s. Class 3 meaning whales and porpoises, eagles, that sort of thing. Now, what that does is stresses the consciousness much more, because if they're humans, imagine being in a whale. The trauma is very great, and they lose more and more energy. It's all about energy harvesting, and that's why the system is so evil.
Okay. Again, I don't know if what you're saying at this moment in time, it kind of resonates, but not a lot with me, because some people, we've had people on before, and they've kind of said things contrary to what you're saying. So again, it kind of comes down to where the information is coming from. I mean, you have your sources where you get the information from, and that's 100% correct, because you've seen things that would have you believe that. But other people are saying, Dr. Joseph, as well, that some of the information that you may be getting and other people may be getting, it could be coming from a corrupt source, if that makes any sense. And how do you know that the information, I think we may have asked you this before, but how can you be sure that the information that you are getting is 100% correct.
Oh, true. There is always a margin of error, and that depends on how purified the vehicle that the vessel that receives it is.
Yeah.
Now, how you know is basically if it resonates with you. Now, it may not resonate straight away. You may get a thought in your head, or you may be told something, and at first you reject it, or you say, "Oh no, that's not possible." And so, basically, due to the training or the ideas you've got in your own mind, that's what I call the cultivated ignorance of this level. But what you do is you don't fight it; you let it be, and then eventually you see whether you resonate with it in due course. The other thing is that you experience whether the knowledge you have been given is accurate or not by developments in your life. If what I've said was contradictory and it was not true, things wouldn't have developed the way they've developed. In fact, they've developed in exactly the way I've been told. So I have no reason to doubt that. They've said that we will see how evil the whole thing is. They said we will see demons and reptiles in human bodies. They said we'll see the end time changes. They said we'll see these mechanisms of destruction. They said we'll see demons in physical bodies and other things, the mechanisms of control. When they first told me that all the religions were evil and controlled by evil beings, I really found that hard to believe. I was raised as a Catholic, and although I didn't believe everything that the Catholic Church said, I wasn't prepared to accept that all religions were evil. But eventually, when I studied them more and more and saw how they manipulated minds and how they punished people and punished minds, the penny dropped. And I said, yes, none of those on whose teachings the religions are based said any of these things. They came to liberate us, not trap us further with mind control and fear. So eventually that made sense to me. So what you have to understand is that you may not be able to accept the concept now, but if you just leave it and experience what it means and develop, eventually the penny will either drop or it won't. Now, if you are blinded to this because you're not viable, it's never going to make any sense to you, right? You will fear very much the end of the physical because you are a physical being. But if you are not really a physical being, you've been trapped here in the physical, and you're awaiting that liberation, which we have been for a long, long time, this is the most joyous news that you can receive. The fact that we're getting out of this evil trap and restarting our life in divine realms. So that's all it means. It means something to everybody to the extent of how aware they are. You can't force others to see this.
Yeah.
You can't force people to awaken. They've got to take their time. But eventually the penny either drops or it doesn't drop. So you just leave it. You don't fight it. You just leave it. That's why I say take it or leave it. Just wait. Eventually you'll see things that will happen. You are now seeing, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you never thought the world was run by psychopaths, would you? Did you?
No.
You had great respect for rulers. You had great respect for the monarchies around the world. You had great respect for all those bankers, all these people that declared war to save us from those horrible hordes. Now you find it's all BS. They're running these wars to enrich themselves and to destroy others for no reason other than that they can. You know now the bankers have exploited us mercilessly to enrich themselves for no reason. They've made life a lot harder for us. And so on it goes. You see religions now as prisons for the mind, where they exploited you as much as they could by the fear of punishment, not using the love of God, but the fear of the demons and hell.
Well, as my father always said, how can they turn around and say God loves you, and then they say you should fear God? Well, you can't have both.
No, not at all. In a sense, the divine beings, the viable beings, are part of that God essence. You see, now we're getting into something more esoteric again. There's no such thing as an individual that is God, right? God is a level of consciousness. Just bear with me for a moment. That level of consciousness can manifest in any aspect of creation. This is very much like the Hindus say. God can manifest in an elephant, in a dog, in a plant, in a snail, in a crystal. That's because that consciousness from that level of the Godhood can come down into there. So Jesus manifested as God when the Christ energy came into him and so on. But he wasn't God alone. He was part of the God aspect. So we Bibles, although we're all at different levels, we're class 4, the animals are class 3, vegetation 2 and so on, we are aspects. When it's all said and done, we are part of the apparatus. That is the divine aspect of this God force. It's just that it breaks up into different levels, and the highest level we call the God level. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, that's totally. I was just going to say, we have about 5 minutes left on the interview, so if you want to, if there's anything that you want to sum up in the last 5 minutes, just to give us your take on people and, you know, what's going on and what they should be, because obviously some people might be concerned about the information and of what you've said in the last hour and a half, just talking about the viables and the whole kind of collapse of the universe and the planet. Is there anything good to take from what you've talked about?
Well, yes, I think if they understand what it means and they're truly honest in their hearts, they can see that this is destruction of a very evil jail that we've been in, a very evil empire that's done nothing but exploited us. I know that's not being paranoid, it's the truth. Life is a struggle. From the moment you're born, you struggle to stay alive, you struggle to feed yourself, you struggle to clothe yourself, you struggle for people around you to help you, you struggle to keep the family together and so on.
Yeah.
It's a struggle. The divine development should never have been like that. And not only that, you have these inputs of fear, more fear, that you're going to go to hell for the mistakes you made, that your wife or husband is unfaithful, that your children are cheating you. Everything is just a horrible, horrible mess on this level. And existence should never have been that. We are now at the point where all this is going to be corrected. As far as we are concerned, the correction for this galaxy has come now. For the other 95% of the physical universe, it has occurred already. It preceded us. Now, how did we get into this mess? It was because of this error at the start that created this physical universe, and this dimension, this physical universe, is only one of a myriad of universes. But none of the others have got the essence of evil in them. Only this one has. So now we're at the point where this evil is being eradicated. But in order to be eradicated, it first must be exposed. And people have to be aware that it does exist. I mean, when I started lecturing in 1985, most people would not concede that there was a thing called evil. They were adamant that there was no such thing as evil. Now, of course, they've changed their tune as they see so many horrible, horrible things happening, like 9/11 and this French bombing a false flag in France in the last few days. Now they see that there's evil. Okay, what are we going to do about that? How did it arise and what are we going to do about it? Well, obviously we have to eradicate it. Now, if you are not evil, you are going to be rescued out of here and you restart your evolution elsewhere, an evil-free zone. If you are evil, and eventually you will know whether you are part of evil apparatus or not, and have refused to change, listen to that phrase, and have refused to change, you are doomed. You're finished.
Okay, well that's a good way to kind of sum it up at the end, just to say that, you know, at the end of the day, you need evil because if we see evil and we see it happening, and that educates us at the same time, it wakes us up. So it's good to see, and that the people who are positive and good karma, they'll move on. People who are evil, they'll be dealt with. But, I mean, I think that kind of sums up, which is pretty good. But Dr. Joseph, thank you for coming on to the show. It's much appreciated. Thanks for getting up real early in the morning to take our call. and to come on and to educate us again, part 3. And, maybe there's a part 4 in the pipeline next year when we're going to be coming near to probably seeing Planet X. It might be an idea to do a part 4. We'll see what happens. But again, a big thank you for coming on. I'm going to pass you over to Steve to get all your details and just to, find out where people can get you. Steve.
Very good. Thank you for that, Alan.
No problem.
Dr. Joseph, it's interesting to say the least. There's a lot of people on the chat rooms there. Some are in agreement with some of what you say. Some are in disagreement with some of what you say. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just information. I know you're putting it out there, and to the best of your knowledge, it's 100%, it's accurate. But at the end of the day, it's obviously how people are going to perceive that information. As I say, it is just information. They can probably check out a lot of what you say, and a lot of what you say has come to pass. And maybe the more darker stuff may come to pass the closer we get to 2035. We just don't know. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just information, and we're not here to try and scaremonger people or frighten them. We're just saying here's an interesting take on the world or the universe that we live in. And I'm sure you would agree that would kind of be fair to say that we're not trying to scaremonger people here.
Oh, that's the way they should take it. They should think about it and take it or leave it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
Right, we do have the website here, www.jchibalone.com, which I have posted up on the chat rooms there for people to go and check out and find out some more information. Is there any other media where people can check you out there, Dr. Joseph?
No, that's basically it. I've posted a few lectures on YouTube. They might like to see those. Just Google my name on YouTube, see what they get. Basically, people have to think for themselves, Steve.
Yeah.
We're not out to convince anybody, we just put it out there.
That's it.
And then, as more things happen that corroborate this information, the more easily people should see whether they want to accept it or reject it. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that's it. I mean, more people. Knowledge gives you choice. Ignorance doesn't, as we always say. So
that's right.
Once they come across the knowledge, then they can make a choice, and then they can decide for themselves. But they have to come across the knowledge first, and it's all part of the awakening process, and which is what we're trying to do. But Dr. Joseph, thanks for coming on. Stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to go over to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
Thank you.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
We're back. That was a little bit of Ozzy Osbourne there, and Dreamer, specially chosen by Alan out of his 45 collection. Yeah, actually that sounds good for vinyl. Again, sorry for that. Look, we had a lot of questions there from both chat rooms in relation to the subject matter for Joseph Chibalone. We didn't get to ask them all. I do apologise. Just some of them, they wouldn't have required a yes or no answer, and we were just kind of running up to the wire here, and we still have some other stuff to get through. So I didn't want to kind of throw them at him and, do a kind of disservice to the people who asked them. So I have saved them here, and the next time we have them on, they will be asked. So apologies for that.
I'm sure we're going to do part 2 anyway, probably in the new year. Part 4. Getting my numbers mixed up. Part 4 in the new year, especially probably around the March time. We'll just see. Keep our eye on things, as he said, regarding the Twin Sun and Planet X and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see what happens. Look, it's all information. At the end of the day, if it resonates with you, fine. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's fine as well. And we just see it as information. Is the universe going to collapse? Haven't a clue. I just take every day as it comes, really, and we just get on with it and do what we need to do, and that's probably the best way to deal with it. How's your week, Steve?
Look, I don't have much to say for my week because we're kind of up against the clock here, but I will say that in relation to something that was mentioned earlier on PIR chat room, and that is Sky Television, I'm proud to say that I rang up Sky Television yesterday and cancelled my subscription. Not that I ever watched it. I never actually watched Sky. I did watch it years ago, but over the past couple, maybe 4 or 5 years, I haven't watched it. And it was kind of just really being used for some of the things that my wife watches and a couple of programs that my children watch. But my children have grown up now, and they don't watch the same programs, and you know whatever they do want to watch can be found elsewhere anyway. So I rang up Sky, and before I rang them up, I checked their website just to see if I could fire them off an email to let them know that I wished to cancel my subscription. There was no easy way of doing it. In fact, I found some forums saying how difficult it was to cancel your subscription. But of course, I've heard this before, that once you ring them up, they promise you the sun, moon, and stars, and it's like breaking up with a girlfriend. And she still wants to be friends, and she doesn't want to end a relationship, and you've just come to the natural ending of things. So I rang up Sky anyway. I was on the phone for 21 minutes, and the lady on the other end of the phone, she'd done everything. She made me feel like she was my best friend. In fact, towards the end of it, I actually felt that there was a connection. There really was, and no, I'm not joking. I felt there was a connection. You
felt the love, did you?
I felt the love. I'm not joking, I swear.
It was like breaking up in a relationship, wasn't it?
It was, and I'll tell you, I've recorded that. I'll send it over to you during the week. I recorded the whole thing, because for training and quality purposes, as you do. And, she didn't want to let me go, and towards the end, she was, nothing was working, and she got just a tad irate at the end, and I said, look, I'm sorry. I said, look, it is what it is. It's time to go. And actually, I used the analogy of breaking up with a girlfriend. I said, me and Sky, I said, we've been together for so long, and I said, I've just fallen out of love with Sky. Is there anything that we've done? She said. I said, no, you've done nothing wrong. I said, although I was on the bottom end of the scale subscription-wise, it was like €38. I think it's been like that for a long time. But I got a letter in the other day saying it was going up to €39, and I just said, no, I'm sorry. So I used the analogy of the girlfriend, and she was heartbroken, but we parted ways in the end, and she was very worried about Christmas. She said to me, Do you realise your subscription will end on the 15th of December? And I went, yeah, I know. And she goes, that's 10 days before Christmas. What do your children watch? I said, I don't know, but they won't be watching Sky. Can we please just end this contract? But anyway, we did it in the end, and she sent me a nice pleasant email saying that, she'd done her very best for me, and she was sorry to see me leave. So before the call ended, I said, look, listen, I didn't want to just, hang up on her. So I said, I was thinking of Aidan Killian at the time, and I said, look, I don't know what's around the corner. Maybe in the future we could be friends again, and we could get back together.
Right, okay.
Anyway, there we go. That's my week in a nutshell. I did record the whole thing. I'll forward it over to you. Anyway, how's your week?
I'll have a listen. Okay. Just a couple of things. TrueActivist.com on the website, they just posted up an article saying that San Francisco becomes first city to ban the sale of plastic bottles. Plastic pollution, Plastic pollution is one of the greatest burdens to the environment. Believe it or not, enough plastic is discarded every year to circle the globe 4 times. Even worse, it is estimated that 50% of the plastic on this planet is used only once before being thrown away. To curb the issue of plastic pollution, the city of San Francisco has just done something monumental. It has become the first in America to ban the sale of plastic water bottles. The move is building a global movement to reduce the huge amount of waste from the billion-dollar plastic bottle industry, which has taken a toll on the environment. Well, I think that's a good move, and it'd be good to see more of that. Gone are the old glass bottles that we used to use, and they were much better and easy to recycle. So, that's a good move for San Francisco. Now, the other thing was something that we mentioned at the start of the show. I'm just going to mention again. The BBC Spotlight programme can be found on our YouTube channel, and it's regarding the corruption of Bank of Ireland. And you want to watch it. You won't believe it. Just the things they were doing. It's unbelievable. Have a pop over there and have a look at the show when you have time. I don't know whether YouTube's going to take it down or not. I don't know when that's going to happen, because for some reason they might do that, so you want to kind of get over quick if you want to have a look at it. But it is quite interesting to have a look at it and see what they're what the Bank of Ireland were getting up to. Not very nice. Now, next week we're going to have a round table, and the round table will be with Mick from Liffey Sound FM. It's going to be Ray and Martin from PIR. And basically what we're going to be doing is, as radio hosts, we're just going to be talking about things that are going on in Ireland, Ray, Mick and Martin have interviewed a plethora of guests, and it's good to kind of now and again get together and just throw that information out there and just band about and talk about what's going on, because in our own little way we're all going through the issues that's happening in Ireland, whether it's Irish water, property tax, mortgages, you name it, credit cards, the whole lot. We've all got issues somewhere along the line. So it's good now and again to get together, and we did the kind of international thing with international hosts. So now we're just going to have a few of us together next week just talking about what's going on in Ireland and what the solutions are. Obviously we want to talk about solutions and what people are doing about it. So that'll be the aim of the game, is to do that. And again, before we finish up tonight, just a happy birthday to Steve for Tuesday.
Yes, thank you very much. If you joined us late and you wonder what he's talking about, rewind to the beginning. Or if you listen to the podcast, you do know what he's talking about. But yeah, thanks for the mug. I'm going to go home and have a large mug of something.
Have a large mug of something in. Okay, yeah. For myself, thanks to everybody on the chat room, both chat rooms there, PIR and OIM, and everybody tuning into the radio show. It's much appreciated, and thank you for your support. We're planning to order the new computer this week, fingers crossed. We had a few things to do for us, that's why we had a bit of a delay, but I'm planning to get that ordered this week. Again, thank you to the person who made the donation for that computer. It's much appreciated. We're going to try and get it in during the week. There's a mountain to climb. There's so much information and stuff to do with it. It's going to take hours to sort out, but eventually it'll be all worth it in the end. So again, a big thank you. But for myself, Alan James, have a good week. Stay safe. Take it easy. If you have any information, send it over to us, and we'll have a look at that. YouTube videos much better than text. If you can, that'd be great. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.
Okay, and yeah, thanks for the birthday wishes. It'll be, the happy event will be on Tuesday. Yes, I'll be reaching the ripe old age of, whatever. Anyway, yeah, so thanks to people who threw in the wishes there on the chat room. And again, I do apologise because I forgot to play the happy birthday tune for Alan a fortnight ago. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Stay tuned to People's Internet Radio. If you're listening on the PIR stream, Vin is up next, and we're going to clear the stream now. So we'll say bye-bye, and we'll do it all again in a week's time. So until then, take care of yourselves. Myself, Stephen George, bye-bye.